Right then, back at CES 2020, MSI announced this super sci-fi looking monster of a gaming PC called the MEG Aegis Ti5. At the time, it was only being sold in the US to sort of test the waters. Well, this year it's back. It's been refreshed and comes with some incredible specs and the performance to prove it. Now, there's a lot to cover here, so strap in, get comfy, and enjoy the show. Now, I know this is gonna sound cliche, but love it or hate it, the case design is pretty substantial. It's definitely a conversation starter. Some people say it reminds them of various robot characters from games, but I think it looks like some sort of futuristic motorcycle from Cyberpunk. Now, I've always been and always will be a fan of minimalistic design, but this thing's headed so far in the opposite direction that I actually really like it. And yeah, there's enough RGB lighting to power an electronic music festival, but oddly enough, I'd argue it was actually done tastefully. There's no tempered glass side panels here. Instead, we've got vented mesh panels on both sides, which will make more sense when I open it up. And at the top, we've got a slightly tinted viewing window for the top-mounted GPU. That's right, top-mounted, and the shroud's facing up, so you can see the fans moving while bathing in even more RGB lighting. But how'd they do that? They flipped the motherboard upside down. I mean, it works, so why not? There's flip-out headphones hangers on both sides of the GPU window, which is a nice touch, and on the front is what MSI calls the gaming dial. I'll get into it further shortly, but basically it's a multi-function dial with a little OLED display. Now, at this point, you're probably pretty curious about the specs list, so keep in mind it varies from region to region, but mine came with an Intel Core i9-10900K, an MSI RTX 3080 Ventus 3X, 32 gigs of RAM running at 2933 MHz from Samsung, oddly enough, a 1TB NVMe SSD from Western Digital, and an SFX 750W 80+ Gold certified PSU from MSI, I think. I mean, it's got an MSI sticker on it, but MSI doesn't sell SFX power supplies, so maybe it's a one-off. And to cool that Core i9, MSI threw in their MEG Core Liquid 240R AIO, which is mounted to the MSI Z490 Micro ATX motherboard. How's that for a specs list for you? Now, not that you really need to upgrade anything, but if you did want to do any part swapping or some dusting, which is something you might want to do annually because I can't find dust filters anywhere, at the back there's just 2 screws per panel you need to remove, and then you can carefully slide the panels back and off, making sure to disconnect the RGB lighting cables as you go. Now, on the left side is the back of the motherboard where we've got a rear-mounted fan for a little supplementary cooling, a secondary unpopulated M.2 slot, 2 2.5-inch drive bays, and the RGB lighting controller board. On the right side is where all the fun bits are. At the top, we've got access to the GPU, and after we get through the radiator, we've got access to everything else. Cable management is as tidy as it needs to be considering you can't see inside when the panels are on anyways, but man is it a tight fit in there. I have no clue if it's even possible to access and upgrade the power supply without completely dismantling everything, but I did find this sneaky little trap door hiding a 3.5-inch drive bay, which was cool, so plenty of storage expansion options here. For I/O at the rear, we've got 3 display ports plus 1 HDMI from the GPU, a bunch of audio ports including center and rear surround, 5 USB-A ports, a Type-C and Thunderbolt 3, 1 and 2.5 gigabit network ports, an HDMI port from the motherboard, and a good old-fashioned PS2 port. Front panel I/O includes 2 more USB-A ports, another Type-C, and a couple more audio jacks. Now, once you've got it set up and booted, you can start playing with the gaming dial. There's a bunch of options already set up by default, but if you launch the MSI Dragon Center, you get a few more options to pick from, plus 5 shortcut slots you can customize for tasks like launching a game or app, for example. You can also customize the dial's display image. By default, we get MSI's mascot Lucky the Dragon dancing around, but and I know MSI isn't gonna like hearing this, for the types of products MSI puts out, their goofy-looking dragon just doesn't fit the bill for me, especially on a serious high-end gaming PC like this one with the cool MSI Dragon logo just underneath. But yeah, you can download any static image or GIF or GIF and simply resize it to 240 by 240 using any of the hundreds of free GIF resizing websites out there, which is exactly what I did. All the case lighting is fully customizable with 5 zones, but there's a ton of presets if you didn't want to dick around for 30 minutes playing Taste the Rainbow. Personally, I actually really like the default setting. I like the colors, the animation's subtle, and it's not distractingly bright. Fan noise levels are noticeable while idle, but not much louder than my ambient room noise levels, so I can't really complain there. While stress testing, levels almost double. This is not a quiet machine under heavy load, but it does bring performance to the party. In extreme mode, the CPU gets a little bump on the core clock to 5 GHz, but that also brings some added heat, averaging 81 degrees Celsius at its hottest while benchmarking. Cinebench gave a multi-core score of 15,333, and 3D Mark's Time Spy gave a score of 16,387. Now, while extreme mode does give a small boost to the GPU's core and memory clocks alongside the CPU, it's pretty insignificant, as you can see through MSI Afterburner while I switch between extreme and balanced, for example. But in games, the hottest average temp I could get the CPU to was 74 degrees and 60 for the GPU, which means we've got a lot more thermal headroom for some more involved and more impressive overclocking. And even with its predefined settings in extreme mode, it crushes AAA titles with max graphics settings running at my ultra-wide monitor's resolution of 3440 by 1440. With core boost clocks getting up to between 1850 to 1950 depending on the game. So I've been thoroughly impressed with its current and potential performance results. And while I know there's other pre-builts with similar, or in some cases maybe even slightly better specs, this is hands down the coolest and highest performing gaming PC I've ever reviewed. And for a pre-built PC, it's pretty expensive compared to others with similar hardware specs, coming in at 4,000 Canadian or about 3,100 US. But at the same time, none of them look like this. So some of that cost premium does come from a super custom case like this one. Look, the price isn't for everyone. The case design isn't for everyone. But man, did I have a blast gaming on and reviewing this PC. So if you've got the budget and you like the looks, go for it. You're gonna love it. Well, I think that's gonna do it for this one. If you've got any questions, fire them off in the comments and I'll try my best to answer them. If you liked the video, do me a solid and use that thumbs up button, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my new videos. Anyways, thanks as always for watching, and I'll talk to you on the next one. Cheers.